Hey folks, good evening. Welcome to another Money Space with me, Kalu Aja. Of course, on this space every week, 7 p.m. West African time, we're talking money, the economy, and finance. This week we're on the economy, and we have such a great topic to talk to you about. Which, of course, if you're Nigerian, you're an investor, you're a taxpayer, it's going to be an issue that you want to pay attention to, right? So we're asking the question, is Nigeria's debt sustainable, right? Lots of commentary in the past week about the Nigeria's debt, Nigeria's borrowing, and all that. Lots of commentators are asking, can we really in Nigeria pay down all this debt? Is the debt good? Are we borrowing for the right things? What is the real issue? That's what we want to get into this evening when we talk around this topic. And again, what we do here is to give you the facts, give you the real information so you can be better informed when you're having discussions with either policymakers or you just want to invest. You know what's happening. And you know why these issues are going to be a problem for your balance sheet or for your investment portfolio, right? Because this is a major thing. So we want to just do a deep dive, of course, into this and then see what we come up with. Again, guys, just request to speak. I don't want to monopolize the space. Just going to do a quick 10 minutes in intro, give you the data. Then that way you guys can come back with those questions that are just fantastic. Again, we are on YouTube and we are also on Twitter. When I mean we are on, I mean we're trying to share these slides that we then have, right? So if you go to YouTube and you go to Twitter, you do see the slides that we share. They are visually, it's great for you to follow visually because that way you can see these numbers, you can see the interplay of what we're talking around, and watch basically. When you see, it's easier for you to ask questions and, of course, to understand better. So if you want to follow, I'm going to be sharing the tweets under the space link. I'm just going to share the first one here. But of course, if you hop into YouTube, I did share the handle, just my name, Kalu Aja. You'd find it. You would find most of these visuals. So either one that you're comfortable with, just hang with us. Let's go do 10 minutes, and then I'll hand the space back to you folks to ask your questions. Let's have a deep conversation about this, right? So first things first, we're just going to talk around the Nigerian macroeconomic indicators. I updated this for May 2026. And the key differences here, we've been trying to do this almost every month, right? The key difference here from what we did in April is going to be the inflation rate and the monetary policy rate. So those two have changed. The Nigerian inflation rate has gone up, right? Has gone up. The monetary policy rate has gone up. What's the inflation rate? It just basically means that prices of goods in Nigeria are going up, but at a slower rate. In this case, at a faster rate, about 15.38%. Why? Really, the war in Iran has driven up energy costs. PMS, diesel costs have gone up, and those costs are a key driver that is now driving food and other things that have cost of goods to go up in Nigeria. So the inflation rate is up. In response to that, the monetary policy rate is actually supposed to come down, right? But the Central Bank of Nigeria actually it's actually supposed to go up when inflation goes up. But the central bank is basically saying that this rise is not really monitoring. It's because of an event, the war in Iran. So they're not really taking that rise in deflation rate into account so much. So they've reduced their monetary policy rate to 26.5. What that means for you is that if you want to borrow in Nigeria, you are going to borrow from 26.5%. That's what the banks borrow from the CBN. So the banks will not lend to you lower than they would borrow or they will discount from the CBN. That's essentially what that means for you as a Nigerian. Exchange rate has been very, very stable. If you notice, we've even gotten more funds. Like I always say, the only issue with the exchange rate is that the money is coming in via foreign portfolio investments. Apart from that, Exchange rate, FX reserve has been very, very, so we could say consistent and stable, which is a big, big plus for Nigeria. GDP growth rate, it's there. We should be doing, give or take, much, much more than 4%, much, much more. Benin, Togo, all these guys are doing much, much more. Nigeria should be doing a lot better. Oil output is the key red flag, guys. We're at 1.46 million barrels a day. That's not up to OPEC. That's not up to the budget. If we don't sell oil, we don't get FX. It will affect our export. It will affect our exchange rate. It will affect the inflation rate. It will affect the GDP growth rate. So the one thing you have to watch always is going to be that oil output. It's not the price per se that we sell crude oil or crude oil is quoted outside the country. It's the volume we're able to sell from our reserves, right? So if we don't sell minimum 2 million barrels a day, we're going to have serious issues with our budget. And that's why we are borrowing, which is why this topic is very, very important. So those numbers, I would say I would give it a C, just because we're not doing a lot on the oil output. And of course, rates are 26%. If rates are 26%, there's no way the small and medium enterprises can borrow and survive. What are you going to borrow on 26% on? So that's a big, big problem there. But let's move on to the other slides that we want to just maybe dwell on. This is talking about now the borrowing. This is as at December 2025. This is the latest from the Debt Management Office. So the Nigeria's total debt that we owe, i.e., this is just the external. I'm focusing on the external because that's in dollar. We can print naira and cover local debt. Yes, there will be inflation, but we can do that, right? It's not a good idea, but we can print naira. We can't print dollars. So when we talk about external debt, that is where the pain and the risk is. Now, the total external debt is about 51 billion United States dollars, 51 billion United States dollars. The cost of servicing that debt last year was about 5.15 billion. So if you do a back of the envelope analysis, we spent about 10%, not the interest rate now, but just taking the total foreign debt and the total debt servicing. It's about 10% Nigeria is paying to service this debt. Again, this is just to service. This is not to pay back, just to service. If you again look at who we are lending money from, multilateral is going to be your World Bank folks. Bilateral is going to be like you're borrowing from China or from Germany. And of course, the commercial Euro bonds are you're borrowing from Wall Street. The problem with Nigeria's borrowing, guys, is the Euro bonds. Why is it a problem? That's the expensive debt. You know, the World Bank debt is the one that we see a lot of. If you go to the news, we're just borrowing about 1 billion or so, and that caused a lot of issues last week. Nigerians went on that channel, the World Bank Instagram page, and were asking the World Bank not to lend to Nigeria again. Too bad that World Bank had to shut down the comment section. That's the one you hear about. But those World Bank loans are actually quite cheap in terms of their interest cost to Nigeria. They are in dollars, but they're actually quite cheap. My own issue with those World Bank debts is what we're borrowing money from. If you do a deep dive on what we're borrowing for, you see things like reforms as part of what they're giving Nigeria money for. I don't think Nigeria should be borrowing for quote unquote reforms, right? We should be borrowing for infrastructure to build things that generate wealth in the future. I don't think, whatever the reforms mean, right? I don't think we should be borrowing for that. We sell crude oil, we sell cocoa, we have taxes, take the money from those and do reforms. But borrow externally in dollars to then build the ports, the rails, those kind of things. That's just my view. But if you look at the Euro bonds, right, we owe about 18 billion. We paid 2 billion, 2.5 to service that 18 billion. The World Bank debt, we owe about 23 billion, but we only paid about maybe 2 billion. But World Bank, we owe 18, we paid about 2.5. So the Euro bond debt is the most expensive, right? And it's Wall Street, it's commercial. So that's the problem. That's what takes a lot of our debt servicing out of the oil sales that we make. So if you want to really have a good analysis or a good solution to a debt problem in Nigeria, you've got to do a bit of asset sales and address these commercial Euro bonds. If you can get your Euro bonds, the debt becomes very, very manageable in terms of servicing. The number might still be up, but the servicing cost will come down considerably. But the point is out of this slide to show you that the real issue really is the Eurobond. We've got to find a way to pay down those commercial debts because they are really, really high, right? Okay, let's go on to the next slide and see what we have, right? Now, I want to now start to go into the specifics, right? And what I tried to do with this slide was to pick 2025. This is quarter 3, 2025 oil revenue shortfall. Again, this is the latest quarter 3, 2025. We don't have any 2025 6 numbers, but it's the latest from the Federal Government of Nigeria Budget Office. So if you look at this, right, again, remember what I told you, Nigeria's foreign reserves, foreign exchange earnings all depend on crude oil sales. You hear cocoa, you hear cashew, they're really nothing. We don't make a lot from non-oil. That is foreign reserves. Don't confuse that with revenues. When Nigeria makes revenues, Nigeria makes more revenues from non-oil. But FX reserves, we make our bulk of our FX sales, FX reserves from crude oil. It's not even close. We're talking about maybe 88%, and then the rest is non-oil. And even in that non-oil, we're counting things like Dangote fertilizer that uses urea, which is gas. We're counting Eleme petrochemical. So even in that non-oil that you see, we're counting petrochemicals as non-oil. So if you take away the petrochemicals, it's down like 5%. So what were the numbers as at Q3 2025? Huge shortfall, 2.8 trillion. So Nigeria was supposed to get about 5 trillion. When we sold crude oil and gas, we got only about 2.45 trillion. Now, why is this important? If we are getting a shortfall when we sell crude oil, it definitely means we've got to cover that debt, because that debt means, or that revenue is what goes to salaries, is what goes to debt service, is what goes to build roads. So we have to go borrow. So every time there's a shortfall, Nigeria has got to go and borrow. And as at quarter 3, 2025, Nigeria had a shortfall of about 2.8 trillion. That tells you that Nigeria, of course, had to go borrow from somewhere. So when you see this World Bank borrowings, you see Eurobank borrowings, this is why we're borrowing. But the question is that, why is there a shortfall? Is the shortfall because we're not making revenues? No, we're making 2.45 trillion. That's a lot of money. The problem is that we are spending too much, or we have told ourselves that we can make much, much more. We said we're going to make 5 trillion. Was that realistic? 5 trillion as at 2025 meant we had to sell oil at about 86 and at about 2.1 million barrels a day. So was that realistic for Nigeria last year to have said we want to sell 2 million barrels when we're selling about 1.4, 1.3 in 2023? That's the problem. We project very, very generous revenues and we never hit them. But we are projecting those revenues because we want to go and borrow money. So we're making 2.45 trillion. That's a lot of money. The shortfall, in my mind, is not as important, because if we simply cut down the spending and then cut our quote around the 2.45, yes, we'd borrow, but we wouldn't have to borrow the whole 5 trillion. But because we have a lot of expenditure planned, then this shortfall has got to be financed. There is no problem with shortfalls. The problem is that the shortfall has got to be financed. Why can't we just simply say, oh, we don't have money? Because we don't have money, we're not going to spend money. We're not going to maybe build a new conference center. We're not going to go abroad for training. We're not going to buy new SUVs. Why don't we say that? Why must we finance the shortfall? That's the problem in Nigeria, that we're financing whatever shortfall, which means we then have to go to the Eurobonds, we have to go to the World Bank, we have to go to the domestic bond market. That is the problem in Nigeria, not the revenues. Like I always say, the spending is simply too much. Cut down the spending and you start to have a hold on this borrowing. The next slide is going to talk about this year. This is last year, right? Let's talk around what we're doing in 2026. I saw this report in the Punch. They were quoting the Nigerian Revenue Service report that was submitted to FARC. It's not yet out, but I'm seeing it in the papers, they are quoting where they got it from, and this is the numbers that they presented. So the actual revenues collected was about 7 trillion. Guys, are you hearing what I'm showing you? This is one quarter. Last quarter, I just showed you the slide for last quarter. Last quarter, Nigeria collected from oil 2.45. This year alone, just this year, this quarter, quarter one, from all the resources, oil, VAT, and all that, Nigeria's making about 7.44 trillion, everything in 7.44. Still, there's a shortfall. So we're at about 76% of target. We have a 2.24 trillion shortfall. So again, go back to my argument. This shortfall that we're making, should we finance it? Should we simply say it's a shortfall, we didn't make this money, hence we're going to go back to the budget and say we're going to cut things out of the budget to take this away from the budget so we don't have to go borrow 2.24 trillion to augment the revenues that are not coming. That should be the way households behave, just like you guys on this space. If you want to spend 1,000 naira, you only make 500 naira. What do? You cut down your spending. It's foolish to go borrow for consumption, right? You can borrow for expenses like food because you have to eat. Maybe you want to pay your rent, okay. But to go borrow to go on a holiday is crazy, right? But Nigeria isn't following that simple advice. Why should we finance the shortfall when we can simply say, well, we don't have the money, let's put a can on it, or put a lid on that and say, we're going to come back to this spending when we get money. Because 7.44 trillion, boys and girls, is a lot of money. And with 7 trillion is more than the annual budget of many West African states. You can say that population is lower, but that's the point. We have a high population, and that high population is giving us a lot of VAT, company income tax, FIRS, and payee tax. We're getting all these revenues in. So why are we then still spending? The issue is not the revenues again, is that we're trying to finance this, because the takeaway is that the revenue shortfall puts pressure on borrowing and debt service in 2026. If we made 7 trillion, stop there and say, okay, that's what we could do. So we're going to cut down foreign training in Nigeria. We're not going to buy any SUV. The president's jet, we're going to only fly maybe once a quarter, something like that. You get the point I'm making. We don't have to finance the debt. And if we keep financing the debt, that's why the borrowing keeps on going up and up and up. That's why you keep on seeing Nigeria's going to the World Bank. That's going to is looking at the IMF. You keep on hearing all these rumors because we're trying to finance a shortfall. Why haven't we cut spending? That's the question. Why haven't we cut spending? All right. So the next slide, again, we're looking at now the total picture. And we're trying to ask ourselves, just look at the total picture. What is this actually saying? Because people are saying, hey, if you talk to the government guys, they'll tell you, well, Kalu, we are borrowing, but our debt to GDP is very, very low. That's what they tell you. Our debt to GDP is very, very low. That's a red flag. So that's a red flag. That's a diversionary number. They're trying to give you a number that will divert your attention. Debt to GDP is, in my mind, though, it's difficult to argue what we are quoting it for. GDP does not pay back debt. Revenues pay back debt. Yes, you want to know your debt to GDP to understand what it is that you are doing in the economy vis-a-vis what is the proportion of debt to the total output of the economy. That is fantastic. So if you compare Nigeria's debt to Nigeria's GDP, it's very, very low. We're at about 32 to 35, which is very, very low. Let me give you the numbers. The US is above 100%. Japan is nearly approaching 200. So debt to GDP, Nigeria is doing very, very well because we're at about maximum 35%, which means the total output and our output is just, the debt is just about 32% of our output. Fantastic. Kudos to us. But again, guys, remember what I said. We can't go to Eurobond and tell the Eurobond guys, which is Wall Street, we can't go and tell them that we want to repay you with GDP. We have to repay them with United States dollars, and that's where the problem comes. Now, look at the numbers again. If you look at Nigeria's debt service to revenues, again, if you're following on Twitter, I'm sharing the slides. If you're on YouTube, I'm sharing the slides as well. If you look at the total debt service to revenues as per the budget, already we're at 48%. So this is not what we are. This is just as per the budget, or just just what the budget said. We are already at 48%. Already half of the so what this means is that half of the revenues Nigeria is making is going to debt service already. Already. This is without us spending any money. This is what we had in the budget. That half will go to pay the debt. But what's the actual? The actual today is about, if you look at the quarter one, which is what was published by Punch, quoting the Nigerian Revenue Service, it's about 90%. So they are saying that if Nigeria earns 100 naira, 90 naira is going to debt service, not salaries, not construction, not anything, debt service. So we earn 100 naira, 90 naira is going towards debt service. And I'm being generous. The numbers are from 90 to 144%. I did my analysis, right? And when you get to 144%, you are taking into account the shortfall of revenues. Remember that we only have quarter one numbers. If you start to look at where we're in April, start to now look at the breakdown and say, okay, VAT has done this, PAT has done this. You are trying to go above 90. That's why we're borrowing. We're borrowing because the bulk of the revenues, we're making record revenues, guys, 7.7 trillion. Record. Lots of money is coming to Nigeria, but we're taking this money to repay debt. Before in the past, there was an argument that we're taking our revenues to pay salaries. Remember, they would say we're borrowing to pay salaries. Who will argue, oh, it's a bad idea, it's a good idea to pay salaries. Now we've even left that level, we've moved up. We're now borrowing to repay debt. So if we borrowed before, we're borrowing to refinance that debt. The numbers are there. If your budget is already saying that 48% of your projected revenues will go to pay debt service. This is what your budget has said. You're already saying that before you blow the whistle, 48 naira out of 100 naira is going to pay debt. Now, you now have about 90% because I showed you the earlier slides. We're at about 2.45 trillion lower on oil sales. Even the 7.7 trillion was already at 9 trillion. So we're making money, but we're spending this money to service the debt. So very limited space for infrastructure, for health, and for education. That's why we're having this space today. The debt sustainability is triggering, is flashing red. Now, if you are following the news, right, globally, you would have read that Iran and the US are at the final stages right now of agreeing a peace deal, right? What does that mean? If there's peace in Iran, right, what happens to the Strait of Hormuz? That's part of what they are agreeing today, that oil is going to flow out of the Strait of Hormuz. On Friday, the stock market in America already reacted to this news. The stock market went to the all-time high. Oil prices started to come down. By Monday, you're going to see a huge crash in the price of crude oil. In the futures market, you see it from Monday. There's no work on Monday in the US. So from Tuesday, you're going to see a huge fall in the markets. Oil price is going to crash. Stocks are going to go up. Why? Because there's peace in Iran. So Nigeria had about maybe 3 months to have sold a lot of crude oil at $100 something on Brent crude. We didn't do it. Now oil prices are coming down. We're still at 1.4, below 1.5 million barrels a day. What that means is that the borrowing that we're going to have to do, we didn't take advantage of that high in energy oil price to get excess revenues and pay down the debt. We didn't, right? And now oil price is going to start to come down. That's why this space is shrinking. The room for maneuver for Nigeria is sort of shrinking because we're not taking advantage of the goodness that God has given to us. If anything happens to oil prices and it starts to go down from it's about 100, it starts to go back down to 70 to 60, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble because now we can survive because we're making money from oil, right? So that oil is giving us excess revenues higher than what the budget says. So this 48% is the budget target. We have already, even with this 48%, we did lower than target. Now imagine the oil prices going down and we're still going to do lower than target. So huge issue. We can't run away from it. What if there's now peace in Ukraine? Then oil goes all the way to 50. Then what do? We have all this debt that we've taken in dollars. Remember I told you, the problem is the euro bonds. It's in dollars. We can print naira. It's a bad strategy, but we can print naira and pay local debt. We can't print dollars. That's a big problem, guys. All right, guys, a few slides left. And again, if you want to speak, just have to request now. So once I'm done, just add you on, and then we can have a discussion around if you agree with me that there's a debt sustainability issue. And let me show you this chart, right? This is Q3 2025. The total revenues that Nigeria made from crude oil in Q3 2025, and usually in all quarters of recent, cannot service the debt that Nigeria has taken. Let me say it again. The total revenues that Nigeria made from crude oil, in this case, we're looking at just the Q3 2025, which is the latest numbers we have out from the budget office in Nigeria. Those numbers that we got from crude oil cannot service Nigeria's debt. So at the 1.4, let's give Nigeria 1.5 million barrels a day. What we are telling you is that that number that we got from that crude oil, not cocoa, not cashew, cannot pay back Wall Street. So if Wall Street said, okay, we're going to take 100% of your crude oil revenues, 100%, we can't pay back the debt. This is as at 2025, Q3. Again, I'm quoting that because that's the latest numbers we have. We have to go with the latest numbers that we have. So guys, you see the problem. The latest numbers are telling us that we cannot even pay our debt with crude oil. If we say, okay, let's make money from cocoa, let's go back to the farms, sell cocoa, sell cashew, survive on that, and pay back Wall Street, we still can't. So is this a debt trap? Is this what we were in the 1990s, where we were making money, but we couldn't pay back our debt? So we're just servicing the debt, and then the principal just kept on growing. That's where we have to ask ourselves this question. And the numbers say we might be there. The numbers say we might be there when we cannot service our debt with oil revenues. Then, guys, that's red flashing light right there. Almost done. I've got 1 or 2 slides. Then we'll get, I see Tony, I got Jay. We'll get you guys in to give us your concerns. Now, I like this chart because this chart is taking us all the way from 2010. This chart is from the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, the NESG, Nigerian Economic Summit Group. And what they've done here is a great chart. They've done the domestic debt GDP, external debt GDP, the debt service, and again, the debt service to revenues. But what they've done it from 2010 to 2024, so that you can just see visually. Look at the last line there, debt service to revenues. Go there. Just on a visual level, you can just look at the way the chart has changed from green to red. If you're on Twitter, I'm sharing it right now. Just give me a second. How it has changed from green to red. In 2010, Nigeria's total debt to revenues was 12.3, which means that if Nigeria sold crude, if Nigeria got 100 naira in revenues, right, we're able to sell, well, we only used 12 naira to service the debt. So we got 100 naira, we only used 12 naira to service that debt. Now, if you look at that same number in 2024, if Nigeria sold 100 naira, we had to borrow 16 naira to repay this, to service the debt. Let me say it again. When we sell 100, it's not enough. We have to go and borrow 16 to add to that 100 to service the debt. Like I said, we are borrowing to repay debt. Forget salaries, we are borrowing to repay. And this is just, if you just look at the chart, it just gives you visually, you don't have to be an accountant to understand this chart. It's just from green to red. We've gone from 12 to 15 to 21 to 28. From 2015, that's when the madness just started. You see 28, 33, 43, 54. Then from 2020, all hell broke loose. 86, 82, 106. By 2023, we're at 142. So when we sell 100 naira, we go and borrow 42 naira to add to a new 100 naira and repay debt. The one we sold is not enough. We have to go and borrow 42 naira to add just to repay debt, not to do anything, just to repay debt. Massive, guys, we can't run away from this. So you can't hide from this because all this debt is going to be paid. Who pays debt? It's not the government. It's the people that pay debt are the taxpayers. When you increase loans, and you increase taxes, the same effect. There's no difference, increasing loans and increasing taxes. All right, let's do the last slide and then we'll get our audience to speak. Why is this important for you guys? In every way you look at this, if you look at the households, look at the SMEs, look at the investors, they are all going to suffer this. If you're a household, this is going to cost you higher inflation and a higher cost of living, plus poor public services because there's no money to do roads. If you are borrowing to repay debt, there is no money to do roads. I heard your question. So, how are we doing the coastal road? We are borrowing that to do it as well. Everything in Nigeria you see today is on borrowed funds. There is no net revenue. Nigeria does not make net revenues. No matter what you read in the papers, what they say customs has beaten their target. That is still a deficit to the spending. It's not a deficit to the target. It's a deficit to spending. Today, I read it, customs has made so billion. It is 10% of their target last year. It doesn't mean anything. It means that that money they've made is still a deficit to target. Crazy, right? If you're an SME, it's very high interest rates. You cannot borrow at 26% for any serious business. And it's unless you are selling, I don't know, but how can you borrow at 26% and say you are doing a small business? You're not Dangote refinery, you're a small and medium enterprise. So how can you borrow at 26%? If you're an investor, of course, they are crowding you out. Let me give you a good example. Last week, the government wanted to sell, the numbers escape me, so I don't want to quote numbers. When you see the government selling treasury bills and investors rushing to buy them, it's not a flex. What is going on is that investors are saying that we don't see any opportunities outside the government. So we are prepared to give the government our money to invest for us. So we're prepared to take the 15% government will give us than going to invest in a farm. So it's a negative effect that the private sector is saying we are prepared to give the government more money than the private sector. When you see that happening in the economy, it's a bad sign. It shows that the investors do not trust the economy to invest money to create jobs. If you had ₦1 million today, you can do pure water, you can do chicken and so and sell, you can maybe open gas station, you can do many things. But if you feel that the cost of doing those things are so much, then you will take your money and go to a bank and say, bank, here's my money, pay me interest. You are going to get a guaranteed rate of return, but the economy is suffering because you're not creating jobs for people to then work. How many people can work in a bank? Banks are less than 5% contribution to GDP. Farming is 20% contribution to GDP. So if you have more people farming, there's a higher input. But loans don't go to farms. Loans go to oil and gas. That's the problem with Nigeria. The sectors that employ more people are not growing. Agriculture is not growing. Trade is not growing. The sectors that are very vibrant, banking, are very small contributors to Nigerian GDP. Very tiny. So you see lots of banks, but they have a very small contribution. You see farms everywhere. They have a large contribution to the economy, but there's no credit going there. There's unemployment there. There's no growth in farming. That's why the economy is stagnated. Last slide, guys. Last slide, and we're going to call out people. Just to emphasize the point I made about the crowding out. I looked at the numbers exactly. Net credit to the government is higher as at 2025 quarter three, which is the latest report. The net credit to the government is up 1.81%. So whatever the target was 23 trillion. It's going up to 24 trillion. But the credit to the private sector, the target was 76 trillion, is down to 72 trillion. So the banks are lending more money to the government whilst cutting credit to the private sector. Why? The banks are not fools. The banks have shareholders' monies. They do not believe that SMEs are viable and can make money. So they want to lend money to the government. I shared a tweet the other day. I said, if you're a banker, they borrow at 10%, give to the government at 20%, they go home. That's not banking, but you can't blame anybody. That's how the economy is set up. If you give to the government, you are getting risk-free return. The risk-free rate should not be high to encourage savings. The purpose of credit is to go and grow the economy. If you make risk-free too high, then investors will go and invest. That's why you have to clap for Dangote every time you see him. If Dangote are taking 20 billion United States dollars and giving to a bank, he will be a trillionaire today with no risk. But he has invested in a refinery, he's creating jobs, he's doing this, he's doing that. He's taking a huge risk. And that's the problem. All right, folks, we've done a lot. Let's get the folks to hop in here and give their comments. Tony, hi, Tony. You've seen my chat, you've seen my slides. What jumps at you, Tony?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir, Tony. I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, that's great. So what I want to talk about is, from what you said, if we do not cut our spending as a nation, if we do not practice austerity, because personally, I've also read about some countries that came out of economic quagmire. And one of the strong points I got from some of my research is that a lot of those countries, their government cuts spending. Yeah. And as the government cut spending, there was more money for the productive economy. There was more money for other things to happen.
Yep.
Now, in the Nigeria spectrum, we have seen how government has handled funds over and over and over. And we keep preaching. I mean, I follow you on Twitter. I see you post on these things every day. But all the leakages, nobody is blocking the leakages. They still spend recklessly, quote unquote. Governments are always making trips to Abuja, making trips here, making trips there. All those little trips here and there is amounting to big, large sums of money. I remember I think it was Punch, I can't remember which of the news channels, they made the news that in a short quarter, they said 20-something governors spent how many billion on just trips alone.
That's the waste we're talking about.
So now the question now is, this is going on year in, year out. At some point, don't you think that the country will just snap and reach breaking point? And I don't know.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm saying. Have we not already snapped? Look at the slide I shared about quarter 3 2025, where you have the oil revenues cannot cover debt service. What else is it snapping? What other snapping are you looking for? Because one thing Nigeria has had for itself, right, is that we have crude oil. So when we're in trouble, there's this crude oil and gas revenues that come in dollars. So look at the Iran war. Oil has gone from $60 to more than 120. But now we're saying that even if you bring that oil in, again, quoting to quarter 3 2025 numbers, right? Someone's going to say we make more revenues from oil. Yes, but the expenditures have also gone up this year as well. The problem, Sir Tony, is this, right? When we increase our costs and we never take them down. When we increase salaries and paychecks, we never reduce them when oil price goes down. So what we then have to do is that when oil price goes down, that gap that we see, we always finance it. We never fire anybody. The last time Nigeria did a reorganization of the public service was under Obasanjo. Remember when they asked the guys in Abuja to leave, they were buying houses and all that. That's the last time Nigeria has done a reorganization of the federal civil service. In America, look at what Mr. Trump is doing. They are cutting down the federal government. Why? They're doing Doge. Whether it's successful or not, there's a realization that they have to cut down spending. But here, there's no talk here in spending. The last budget, remember, it was streetlights, lots of streetlights in an economy where we are borrowing to do. So we are borrowing to do streetlights, which are not even done.
Okay. So please, the next thing I wanted to talk about was this borrowing of money.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes whenever I hear the amount of money that not just Nigeria borrows, other countries borrow.
Yeah.
I ask myself, when does this money? Is it that this money doesn't finish? Because it looks as if whenever we request for more funds, I remember last week, I think the president, there was news that the president wants to take 1.2 billion from, is it World Bank?
World Bank.
And they said that Nigerians flooded their social media, saying that they shouldn't give us the money.
Yes.
Now, as embarrassing and funny as that is, Nigerians are justified for doing that, because
I agree.
On the lower scale in Nigeria, most people are just trying to survive. Most people don't have decent life. Like when I say they're trying to survive, they're just trying to ensure that they're able to feed maybe twice a day, they're able to pay their rent wherever they are, and they're able to do some little things for themselves, and they're okay.
Yeah.
And they're okay. So now, this borrowing that we keep borrowing and it keeps compounding, what happens, because with the way we are behaving, it looks as if the hope of paying back these funds is
So I want to ask you, Tony, what's your question so I can go?
Okay, now the question now is, are we going to be able to pay these funds later in the future? Because a lot of people are always complaining that it's our children's children that will pay this borrowed money.
The only way we're going to pay this money back, if you ask me, in my opinion, is that we're going to have to sell something. Either we're going to have to sell LNG, or we're going to sell NNPC, or we're going to sell farmland in Nigeria to someone to pay this money back. How do you pay back 18 billion? How do you pay back 51 billion? It's not due today. It's not due today, but the only way you are going to pay back money is to sell things, right? That's the only way you're going to pay this money back. Remember, when was the last Nigeria paid down its debt? That was under Obasanjo, when we had the debt buyback. And that debt buyback, we paid 12 in cash, then we bought back debt. So it's not as if we went and we paid the whole debt down to 100%. They had a deal. We bought back our debt at a discount, we paid back some, and that was how the whole deal was back. I don't know how you pay back 50 billion unless you grow the economy maybe 10 times. So our economy today is about maybe 300 billion. If you grow the economy 10 times, it will become a $3 trillion economy. Then you can pay back the debt via productivity gains. You can then say, wow, the economy is so big, we're generating so much in VAT and tax, we're going to pay it back. But if the economy is still at 3 trillion, how do you pay back 51 billion in debt? I don't think that's why we're servicing the debt. So we reopen the debt, we just reservice. That's why you see contractors in Abuja are not being paid, because we're just servicing it. To pay back principal is tough. Look at the picture above here. Principal 23 billion, principal 6 billion, principal 18 billion. How do you pay that back? What's our foreign? Our foreign reserves are not savings. Nigeria doesn't own those foreign reserves. The foreign reserves are owned by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Not the same thing. Those are claims on Nigeria. You can't take foreign reserves and pay back debt. It's not your money. So big problem there, Tony. Big problem, yeah, Tony. But thanks, I appreciate the engagement. Jay, how you doing, Jay? Jay, what's up?
Yeah, good evening.
Jay, how are you doing?
Good evening, Mr. Kalu.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm very well, thank you. Good. Yeah. When the octogenarian came to office, the first year expo, I was very, very skeptical. Because ever since, like you mentioned, everything had just gone towards a downward spiral. 2015. We were doing very well, we were growing, and I can remember, 2013, circa 2014. I think we were like one of the 5 top growing economies in Africa. We were doing things were not really hard. I can remember I was sitting. That was my first year in the University of Lagos, 2013. I was sitting in and I also remember
Jay, your audio is very. Let's have a lot of background noise behind you. A lot of background noise. You want to fix that?
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go for it. Jay, you want to unmute? Go ahead and unmute.
Okay, sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, sorry. So, like I said, the whole mess started in 2015 when these guys came to power. Like the mess started, and ever since then, it has been that one fire. I could remember 2013, was it 2014? Around that time, even before that, we were like, top 5 economy in Africa. We were doing well. Things weren't that bad. And, things have just gone towards the down. And I would like to use, I'm a Christian, and I would like to use scriptural verse. The Bible says that the borrower is slave to the lender.
Yeah.
You can't.
That is true.
There's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing wrong in borrowing. But what are we doing with those monies? What are we doing with these monies? And when you bring up points like this, supporters of the government, they go gung-ho, they start saying, oh, this, that. I remember when Buhari printed 40 trillion?
22 trillion. 22 trillion.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. It was 22 trillion. When, what was the motive behind that? What was the motive behind printing that amount of money, and where did that money go to?
He was paying fuel subsidy, so he had no money to do anything else. So he had to print his whole budget. That's what he was doing. He took the money he was earning from oil and gas and VAT to pay fuel subsidies. So he had to go to the CBN and print money to do everything else.
I don't even have a problem with borrowing, but we should practice some form of fiscal responsibility and use those monies in a very effective manner.
Nigeria should practice. I mean, I hear you, but the point is that most people, I want to equip you with information so that when you are talking, you have data. If you can download all the slides I've shared with you, they are all from the federal government. All from the federal government. The numbers are crazy. Nigerians don't yet understand what's happening to them. Like I've said, if oil prices start to come down in price from the $120 a barrel to about 50, 60, 70 a barrel, we're in serious trouble, because what it means is that you're going to borrow more. Even with the oil price, at 100 and something, we are posting fall in oil revenues, and we're posting the fall into our revenues. Nigeria is banking on the tax reforms. And the tax reforms are going to bring a lot of money. What if they don't? There could be next year is going to be politics, 2027. Do they want to collect taxes in 2027 election year? I feel that they would be careful about really going after taxes, because all these tax reforms we're talking about will happen in 2027. That's when people are going to pay their new taxes. So I'm a bit worried about that. Yeah. But
Mr. Kalu, I wouldn't put anything beyond this government.
All right.
I wouldn't put anything beyond this government, because the same, they are just tone deaf, to be honest.
All right, we'll see. We shall see. We shall see. Thanks for the engagement. I appreciate you, sir. Thanks so much. OTO. Hey, OTO, how you doing, sir?
All right, I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalu.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think this is a very interesting topic. But I would like to start with the banks you talked about, for example.
The banks.
Recently, the banks are just done with their recapitalization.
Yeah.
We've seen the banks are stronger. But I'll just say they are stronger on paper, because if you come to look at the capital reserve ratio, in the federal government, the central bank is withholding 45%. That means for every 100 naira that is being saved, 45% is totally dormant with the central bank. The bank just has 55% to play along with. And I don't think the banks will be crazy enough to risk giving out that 55% as loan to small-scale business owners. That's why you see them jumping into treasury deals, bonds, and so on. So there is a negative effect from what the central bank is doing. And if that continues, with the hope of us, of the federal government, being able to pay back these loans through tax, when these companies cannot fund their businesses through loans, how then would they generate profits for the federal government to be able to tax from?
It's already showing, now, it's already showing, sir. If you notice, the 2016 quarter one was lower because they did not get monies from from CIT.
Yeah.
It's already showing what you're saying. Yeah, they didn't get monies from companies. They didn't pay taxes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, like you said, which is very true, the war in Iran will soon be over. The war in Ukraine might likely follow suit. So I think it is really a death trap. There is something the Eurobonds, the IMF, World Bank, there's something they are not really telling us. And I believe, just like people with rumors will fly around that China is taking over African countries, I believe that will be the next phase of what's going to happen. Like you said, they might end up selling some refineries.
They've already sold them.
They might just end up doing that.
They've already sold it, but refineries are scrap. They're not going to get any revenues from there. They are scrap. Look. I want to pick up something you are talking around. When Emefiele, you know how Emefiele was the CBN governor. I think he did a lot of damage because he allowed Buhari to spend. But when you look at Nigeria is a developing economy. You have to fight as a central bank governor. You have to fight between inflation and growth. And you can't win both of them. If you come to the SMEs and tell the SMEs, I'm going to give you cheap loans for you to grow, then you are doing inflation. But if you fight inflation, you are killing SME loans. That's the problem in Nigeria. So where do we draw? Which one should we tilt towards? Should we tilt towards fighting inflation or growth? If you ask me, Otto, you're a finance guy, we should tilt towards growth. Inflation will come, but we have got to grow the economy. Because when we grow the economy, we are fighting insecurity, we are creating jobs down the line. If we focus on only monetary fighting inflation, it's a big problem. That's where my view. I get what they are doing, that they're trying to fight inflation, but at the cost of not growing the economy, that's a very, very risky thing for an economy in Nigeria where we have young people that have no jobs. Everyone has a younger brother at home without a job. With this kind of economy, you've got to focus on job creation, consumption, and productivity gains more, in my view, more than fighting inflation. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I go with the monetary policy. But you see, I think there is a clash. We are in a nation where the central bank is not absolutely independent. And already there is a clash between the monetary and the fiscal policy. When the president came into power, I think in 2003, and announced subsidy removal, the plan was, the idea was, from the removal of subsidy, Nigeria will be able to pay off some loans, Nigeria will be able to finance capital projects, capital expenditures will improve, and so on and so forth, allocations will stay. But in doing this, they said trillions will be saved and so on. But in doing this, they ended up, creating unnecessary expenditures. Mr. Kalu, I'm going to give you an example. Not on papers. I work with the state governments. And you talked about training earlier. We're about to go for a training. But the cost of the training was so expensive. We were going to be lodged and so on and so forth. And this man brought an idea that, no, let us invite the trainer to come over. We pay accommodation for him while we come from home, and and then. But you see, it was people kicked against it. And the same thing is happening even at the higher places, even at the federal level. Nobody cares how to manage resources. In fact, generating revenue is not Nigeria's problem. but how we spend it. And since we are not able to control our spending, since we are not able to control our spend, we will definitely run into debt. We spend things unnecessarily, things that don't yield income, things that don't generate revenue, buy jets here and there. So we are in a trap that is being orchestrated by leaders that don't care about the future of their people. America takes debts, like you said. Yes, other countries take debt, but we are seeing it. When they say they are going to spend trillions of dollars or billions of dollars for their military, we see it happening. We see the contracts being given. It is clear, it is open. But in Nigeria, we don't see it. Even when the revenues are generated, even when we take these loans to finance these so-called projects, we don't see the projects.
And that's that's what I actually get. I think annoys people a lot. I think if Nigerians would not care, if the president went and borrowed $1 trillion, and he took that 1 trillion and he built roads to all the state capitals, built speed rails, built 10 ports, built 100 power plants, nobody will complain. But like I said at the very beginning, remember, Nigeria is not making any net revenue. When you see customers making money, enterprise making money, it is not a net revenue. We are borrowing. Look at the numbers on the budget. If Nigeria makes 100 naira on the budget, not actual, on the budget, 48 naira is going to go to debt service. But right now, as we speak, we are doing about 90 going to debt service. You can't run a country, a company, even a household like this. All right, let me get. I think. Oh,
thank you very much.
You're welcome. I lost Afolabi. Afolabi, I'm adding you real back, Afolabi, so you can come in and speak. I just lost Afolabi. Afolabi, here. Afolabi, go ahead. How you doing? Afolabi, I do. Just add it. Oh, Vicanto, how are you? Vicanto, what's happening? While Afolabi is getting ready. Vicanto, please go ahead.
Hey, hello, good day.
How are you doing, sir? I'm doing very well.
Yeah, okay. I guess everyone can hear me right?
Yes.
Clearly, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there's this thing I always say, yeah? And I think one of the easiest things to actually solve all of this is to first fight corruption, right? You said one thing just now. You're like, the people are not going to mind if we borrow $1 trillion and we use it to build roads, build refineries, and we are seeing what this money is being used for.
Yeah.
To be very honest, I just feel we are borrowing out of selfishness. We do not need to borrow. We make so much revenue from oil and even taxation alone to pay up our debt and to pay up subsidies. I'll give an example, yeah? The total cost of subsidy, and you guys can fact check it, is at a range of, let's say, 6 trillion naira, right? And of recent, we have 200 trillion naira missing, not accounted for by NNPC. Now, 200 trillion naira divided by 6, that could pay subsidy for almost 30 years. So I feel the mistake we are making is we keep saying we are in debt, how can we solve this, what's the best solution? Let's just hit the nail on the head, and it's going to have a domino effect, fight corruption.
Yeah, that's but let's assume today, right, we cancel all corruption, that 100% of the revenues we make in Nigeria, not a kobo is stolen. We are still going to take 48 naira.
Sorry, I think I'm done.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry about that. Let me see here. Let's assume we cancel 100% of the corruption. 100% of the corruption. According to the budget, we're still going to spend 48 naira to service each 1 naira revenues. 48. That's nearly half. So again, honesty is not going to solve Nigeria's problem for now. It has to be a total austerity budget. That word austerity, we run away from it in Nigeria. But we've got to go back to the basics and say, strip down the budget to its DNA. If it's not going to create jobs in Nigeria, cancel it. Like I said, if it's not health and human services and defense, every other thing, including infrastructure, should be risen on a zero budget. what will this road do in Nigeria? How many jobs will it create? If it's not going to work, pend it for now. Health, human services, defense. These are the only three things that we must spend money on. Every other thing we can wait. We don't have to go for build conferences. We don't have to build national theater. We don't have to build this or just be very, very focused. We have, just like how you do in your household. If you don't have money, do you pay for DSTV? No. Don't you want to watch Arsenal win the Premier League? Yes, but you don't have money to eat. Why are you paying for DSTV? Nigeria will borrow money for the DSTV, borrow money for the food. You can't run a country and economy that way. So we've got to get a bit serious with our Rasanya report is there. We are creating new ministries. We have Ministry of Agriculture, then we have Ministry of Livestock. We have more special advisors than we have GDP growth in Nigeria. So we're spending too much money in the country. That's just it. Because you have a comeback.
Okay. I totally agree with you. We need to strip the budget DNA. We need to be very specific on what we want to do, what is going to benefit the nation. I totally agree with you. But like I said, and which I believe history has pattern.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, you just have to hit the nail on the head, whether you like it or not. The truth is extremely bitter. And sometimes if you try to do patchwork, you end up spoiling the whole system overall.
Yeah.
Now, the simple truth is these guys will not allow you strip the budget into pure... they won't allow you to strip the budget. They won't allow you to audit the budget. Why? Because they want to embezzle money. Why? Because there is corruption. So, like I said, once corruption can be tackled to an extent, because you cannot remove 100% corruption, it's literally almost impossible. But once it can be tackled to an extent, trust me, it's going to have a ripple effect. It's as simple as that.
Just want to make the point that I'm not against fighting corruption. I'm just saying that
Sure. I agree.
Even if you fight corruption and the structure is wrong, right, you are not going to get the best benefit. Nigeria has something called FAC. Why do we have 36 ministers? Because we have something called federal character. So you've got to focus on the structure of Nigeria and say, okay, do we need FAC? Do we need 50? Let me tell you, if somebody wins elections today, he must appoint 6 ministers. He might not give them a portfolio, but he must have 6 ministers. So why? Why? So those things have to be tackled in also with corruption, right? You say, okay, we're going to focus on this, don't call it corruption, on the stealing, right? And we're also going to focus on just streamlining the budget. Then if you do both two, I think you're going to be rather good. Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate your comment here. Afolabi, how you doing, Afolabi? Afolabi, how you doing?
Yeah, how you doing, Kalu?
Doing very well, sir.
Yeah, thanks for giving me another opportunity to speak. The last time you spoke about family, these are radical ideas where I don't know how it's ever going to come to pass in Nigeria in terms of even getting rid of that.
It's just 1970. It's just 1970.
I know.
It's not like it's just recently that we had FAC. Recently.
I know it's the radical ideas, but I just want to say one. I think I disagree when somebody says we don't have a revenue problem. I think we do have a revenue problem. But the question I have, Dr. Khan, can the budget even tell us what percentage of these loans is going into infrastructure projects and what is going into recurring and even debt servicing? Can we get that data?
We can, but it's not dated. We have it not as at 2024. It's from the DMO. They will break it down for you and tell you they will give you the projects. And so from the project, you can determine where it's going to. Last time I looked at it, about 40% was going to budget support, which is salaries. So, but it's not dated, it's not up to date. But again, to look at the numbers we're sharing, the numbers are pretty clear. If you are borrowing and you more than your revenues to pay debt service, that means you are borrowing to pay salaries, debt, before you even talk about infrastructure. That's just math. If you make $100, but you are spending 48 to pay debt service, that tells you already that you are still going to borrow for debt service, for salaries before you do any infrastructure in Nigeria. That's the problem. There's no revenue. When we say Nigeria has a revenue problem, Afolabi, we know that Nigeria needs more revenues. We know that, right? But we're making the point that we are simply wasting the spending. Give you an example. The vice president has a 21 billion naira house. He's not staying in. 21 billion. He's not staying in that house. That's not a revenue problem. That's a spending problem. So if we capture more of this 21 billion and we take that money and we go to one school and we say we're going to fix power in that one school, that's what we want to do in Nigeria. And if we don't do things like that, we're not going to go anywhere in the country. We spend like we're Qatar, but we are Sudan. That's the problem with Nigeria. We just the last budget has 7 trillion in added expenses, 7 trillion from National Assembly. They're called constitutional projects. And we had the current House of Reps guy for infrastructure. He was here, good guy, and he explained, oh, it's for this, it's for this. Those projects are how they can ensure that their constituents get the federal purse or federal largesse. But it's lopsided, it's rash. Some guys want motorcycle and hairdresser. In the federal budget, you see money for hairdresser. In a federal budget, you see barber, you see motorcycle, keke. You see in a federal budget, we're going to take raw cash and give people. In a federal budget, we're going to take raw cash and give people. It's a waste. The money is wasted. Nigeria, if we are paying poor people in Nigeria 25,000 naira a month, you will see it in your village. In my village, you come to my village and you pay those people in my village 25,000 every month. The village will see it, but it's not being paid. Maybe they pay them once in a year. So for me, we have to be radical. We have to be radical about how we look at the economy, the country, and say, where can we deploy this money to? We have 50 billion airports in Ebonyi, and the state the schools are not doing as well. But Flabi, go ahead. Your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to kind of finish off. I think just to buttress, I don't think we are asking the right question economically from the government. I like what you said when you say, look, irrespective of who is in charge of the country, structurally you must appoint 36 ministers.
Yeah.
So that's my point. Are we, as people who really care about the country, and let us even park politics aside?
Yeah.
I'm guessing we're not asking the right questions.
I mean, we try. We try.
The right question to say, look, this is the problem. How do we really solve it? Bipartisanly, because you said it now. Whoever is in charge now, his hands are tied. He must hire 36 ministers. They will have special assistants of special assistants, and the waste just continues.
But you can have 36 ministers and not have 36 portfolios or 36 ministries. You can have 36 ministers and 8 ministries. That's possible. Not what the president is doing today. President Tinubu was a guy that was from Lagos State. He was very libertarian. He was very state power friendly. He gets to the federal office. No other president has controlled National Assembly like him. No other president has controlled the courts like him. But what has he done with this power? He's pushing state police. I love it. I wish him the very best. Push it. But what about he tried with the tax reform? This tax reform people are talking about. The first thing in tax reform was Tinubu wanted to take VAT and give it back to the state. People forget this. It was when that was cancelled that we now started talking about VAT for you and I. Tinubu's plan was to take 60% of VAT and give it back to the state. If you had done that with state police, suddenly states will become like mini federal government. And then things like facts start to sort of die down. You can't have a country that says if you want to build power plants, you build them according to federal character. Let me give you a good example. Where are the steel plants in Nigeria? We know that no country can develop that is steel plant in Nigeria. We know that any country that is a global power today has a steel plant. Where did Nigeria put a steel plant? I'll tell you. We have one in Osogbo. We have one in Jos. We have one in Katsina. We have one in Delta. We have one in Ajaokuta. Do you see the pattern? We are putting steel plant according to federal character. One in South-South, one in Southwest, one in North-Central, one in Southwest. Not according to where there's logistics or the raw materials. That's why Ajaokuta is not working. Because everything is federal character. When did the Southeast get an international airport? A region that has got Aba, largest cluster of SMEs in Nigeria, has got to Nnewi, largest auto clusters in Nigeria, got Onitsha, largest open air market in Nigeria. When did they get an international airport? 2013. So when you say these things, you can't run an economy that wants to get to 1 trillion with a national grid. Remember when Tinubu was the governor of Lagos State, he brought a barge from Enron, put the barge near Lagos. What happened? Federal government says, no, you can't sell power to Lagos, you must sell power to Nigeria. What's Tinubu's business with Nigeria? He's the governor of Lagos. So if you don't kill FARC, you can't grow as a country. If you don't kill the Consumer Revenue Fund, you can't grow as a country. Lagos State can't make money from VAT because they are fixing their roads, building hotels, building deep sea ports, and take that money and share to Abia. It's not going to work. States will just be lazy. I'll just sit down, let Lagos build port. They will give me my share. You can't run a country that way, Apolabi. What's your take?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I couldn't agree more. But we all know what happened with the 60% VAT.
So why didn't he use his power? Why didn't he use his power? He's so-called I am 31 out of 30. Why didn't he use the power then?
There was a revolt in a certain section of the country. So I mean, there's just a vicious circle.
I hear you. Yeah, no worries. I got you. Let's get Africa in a box. That's a nice name. Africa in a box. Afolabi, thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Kalu.
How you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. Yourself?
I'm doing very well. Yeah, it's Sunday and we're doing well. Yeah, we're recovering from.
Well, thanks for your job, right?
Thank you, sir.
Let me start by correcting something. Not to take anything from your submission, to be honest. You see, that Ajaokuta example, I don't think is valid because Ajaokuta is situated within huge reserve of iron ore. In fact, Ajaokuta has, it has dolomite, it has limestone. So I don't think Ajaokuta falls within that.
Let me ask you a question. Can the iron ore in Nigeria be used in Ajaokuta?
Yeah, there is iron ore in Ajaokuta, Itakpe. Even there's
I know, but the question I'm asking you is that can the iron ore in Nigeria be used in Ajaokuta?
Like currently, no, it can't be used.
Exactly. So Ajaokuta, let's be real. So when I've studied Ajaokuta extensively, the Russians did us 419. That's what they did us 419. Let me give you a brief story of Ajaokuta. Diversion. It's a very interesting story. Diversion. When you want to make steel, there's what they call furnace. There's furnace that Ajaokuta has a furnace. There's also what they call direct, which is the DRI, direct reduction, direct something induction. When Nigeria wanted to build Ajaokuta, we didn't have crude oil. We had no money. So we went around the world to look for loan to build a steel plant. Nobody gave us a loan. Russia said, we'll give you a loan. After Russia gave us the loan, Nigeria got crude oil. Nigeria now said, listen, we want to build a bigger plant. We don't want small plant from your loan. We want to build a bigger plant. The problem was that this furnace method was a brand new method. This was 1960s. It was a brand new method. So Nigeria went around the world and they told Nigeria, this furnace method cannot work because the iron ore in Nigeria, you can't use it. It's low quality. It doesn't have enough iron to make iron ore. What the Russians did, Russians came and told Nigeria that they've done survey and they have found a place in Nigeria where they can get high quality iron ore that they can use to make to Ajaokuta. So Nigeria gave them the contract. They extended the contract. It was when they had built enough. They said, oops, we don't have any more iron ore. Nigeria at that point should have cut off the contract. For some strange reason, we refused. Ajaokuta was Russia's single largest foreign contract, I think to date. There was direct flight from Russia to Nigeria. About 20,000 Russians moved here. Salaries, everything, they were here. And they just ran when Ajaokuta was built, there was no Delta state. The port in Delta was built for Ajaokuta specifically. The railway that's railway that comes with Takbe, that the guys in Delta, was built specifically for Ajaokuta. Why? To import the limestone, to import the ores. That place in Guinea that China is now controlling. Nigeria wanted to go to Guinea and bring in the ore, take it to Ajaokuta. So but why was it a problem? Because it was a wrong siting. It was built near, there's no water, there's no rail. How would you have moved the steel out? How? They should have put it near the River Niger. So you could have moved the thing from the Atlantic Ocean via barges into Ajaokuta. Why didn't they put it there? Diversion, Africa, but come back, Africa. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Kalu. Yeah, to be honest, this is the second time. I'm hearing you say this Ajaokuta analysis, and the reason why I requested for the mic is to somewhat correct it, because as I speak, I'm a geologist, right? And I did a lot of research in Ajaokuta, right? So yeah, we can't call Ajaokuta iron ore reserve high grade, but it is medium grade, right?
It's low grade. It's not medium grade. It's low grade.
It's medium. I know this. I worked on it.
Okay, but the iron ore in Ajaokuta cannot be used. In Kogi cannot be used in Ajaokuta without beatification. It has to go to a Itakpe first. That's the point I'm making. So why did we build a steel plant near the iron ore source that was of low quality that still needed beatification? Why not just build it near the water and then build the railway from the iron ore to Ajaokuta, where the steel plant would be? That's the point I'm making. We built the Ajaokuta near in Ajaokuta of the iron ore, but the iron ore is medium quality, to quote you, sir. So why not build it near the water, then build the railway from the ores to the plants? That's what I'm saying. We put the cart before the horse. It's like the same with the power plants. The gas is somewhere. We build the power plant somewhere. Then now we're complaining of gas pipes being blown up. Why not build the power plants where the gas is? Then do the transmission lines to take it all across Nigeria.
Well,
it's the same thing.
I get your point. I mean, we could cut a lot of costs there, right?
Correct.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So another thing I want to talk about is the loan aspect, right? To be honest, the way we obtain loan in Nigeria is different from how developed countries obtain their loan. Yeah. I mean, people mention America a lot, right? America don't go to IMF or World Bank to obtain loan. America sell bonds. Yeah. Right. So let me zoom in on the last loan we obtained from United Kingdom. This is about $800 million loan, right? Half of the money has to go back to Britain.
Oh, geez.
Right? Because half of the money has to be used to buy steel from Big Britain. Guess what? The next day, the Prime Minister came out and said, "Oh, we have found a way to revive our dead steel industry," and it's because of the deals they made with Nigeria. So majority of these loans that we just talk about, majority of the money is not even coming to us, and half of the money, right? Half of the money is going to Britain, right? And half of the money is probably going to Calgary.
That was just
going to Calgary. So it's not coming to us.
Yeah. Explain about Sunday. That loan was just a crazy loan. Essentially, what that loan was, was that a private individual wanted to buy steel in the UK, and the UK guys told him, "Come and buy from us." And he says, "I don't have money to buy from you. Your steel is too expensive. Oh, we'll give you a loan to buy, but because it's so much money, let Nigeria guarantee the loan." That's what happened. So Nigeria is that loan was Nigeria guaranteeing a private individual to buy steel from UK. Has anyone in this space heard about anybody buying steel from England? You buy steel from China and South Korea or Mexico. Has anyone seen any project that UK supplied steel for any project in this whole world? Has anyone ever seen? If you see, share on the space where you saw UK went and they were building a train, then they went and bought steel from UK. It's too expensive. That plant, just like Africa is in, that plant that Nigeria bought the steel from was dead. The government had to go in and save that company. So the company was dead. The government of UK nationalized the company. Then the government of UK then went to individual Nigeria and said, "Come and buy steel from us, get Nigeria to guarantee the steel." So in effect, Nigeria subsidized a company in the UK. That's what the loan is for. We went, Nigeria, Africa, went to the UK and subsidized workers and a factory in the UK. Their PM came out, like of Africa is saying, their PM came out and tweeted it that he has saved the plant and the workers. That's what Nigeria subsidized. Let me give you the killer, Africa. There are 3 steel factories within Lagos and Ogun State. 3 that Nigeria could have gone and taken that money to and give them the contract and said, "Okay, you guys go to UK. You have done the same thing. They would then have to go to the UK, come to Nigeria and do a joint venture. So those Nigerian steel companies would have maybe bought even that UK company, exported the materials to Nigeria, or exported the technology to Nigeria. We didn't. We went and subsidized a UK company. Now that tech is going to be in the UK. We would never have it in Nigeria. China developed by buying dead, rusting, old companies, steel companies in Germany and Europe, taking them to China, learning how to make high quality steel, and then making theirs. Nigeria is not doing the same thing. Africa, man, that's crazy. But good point, good call out.
Tommy, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
And if you look at the other half that is coming to Nigeria, right? We use it to build a port. And this port will be used.
The port is existing now. The port is existing. The port exists. The guy is already on the port. It's not. We're not building. It's already existing. It's a sweetheart deal. That deal is just annoying. That's one thing. That's why I don't like this gentleman. He's too self-dealing. That's the president. He's too self-dealing. Everything he does, whether it is good, if you look behind it, look at the coastal road. It's a beautiful road, beautiful road. That road would increase the GDP of Nigeria, that road. But why is he doing it? Why is he doing it? Because it favors him personally. If you are taking that same money, that road had no budget allocation. There was no budget allocation for that road. They now have to put it back into that road. We don't know till today. Today, no one can tell you how much the coastal road is going to cost. No one can tell you. It's a PPP.
Well, God says $12 billion.
We don't know. We just know it's a PPP. Nigeria has gone to Deutsche Bank. We borrowed money from Deutsche Bank. We borrowed money again. And then this guy is supposed to do his own borrowing while putting to. No one can tell you today what the coastal road is going to cost. They asked the gentleman, the minister, cost per meter. He couldn't answer because they don't have a cost. They want to build that road, then toll it. Then they will now give us the cost. Then we'll now say, okay, you are owing. So if you cancel that loan, you are owing the guy. Yes, we could have taken that money and repaired all the feeder roads that do agriculture in Nigeria. You can drive down inflation, create jobs, but we didn't. Everything has a cost. If you buy apples, the cost is oranges. It's not naira. If you buy oranges, the cost is pineapples. It's not oranges. I hear you. Let's get Mike. Mike Murray, how you doing, Mike? Mike? You've seen our presentation. What comes to your mind? We're talking about is Nigeria going to a debt trap? Are we borrowing too much? What risks do you see, Mike? Talk to us.
Personally, the thoughts on my mind are, I have checked, and definitely I believe that we are borrowing too much because there are no projects on the ground that justify that amount of borrowing. There's no production on ground. There are no value chains being developed and all that. But the questions on my mind were, are there any specific value chains that small or medium-sized businesses can go into to basically export and bring in foreign exchange that would help boost the economy?
There are lots of value chains, especially in agric, IT. There are lots of value chains in Nigeria. The good thing with Nigeria is that there's so much lag that if you just do something simple, you make a lot of money. There's so much gap. We import palm oil. We import gari that we have locally here. If you come to Nigeria, you have a cassava processing plant that can turn the cassava tubers to high quality cassava flour. You can export it or chip. That's just cassava alone, right? Soybeans. China is buying tons of soybeans. Again, we have soybeans, but is it processed locally? You saw that there was a tweet where the ambassador in China posted a picture where China was importing bones from Nigeria, cow bones from Nigeria, right? And Nigerians were surprised that, wow, why are you importing cow bones? There's more value in the cow apart from the bone, from the beef. The horns, the blood, the skin, all that make actually as much money as the beef. But no one is doing processing of the cow, the blood of the cow, that's used for fertilizer. No one is doing that. So value chains exist. If you go to the so many Nigerian websites, they will show you what is the need is out there that you can come in here and invest. It's only about you have to be here. So I know if you're asking a question of what can you invest in, but if that's your question, there's so much you can invest in Nigeria, that you can make a lot of money. The problem is that, are you going to really be invested? Who's going to manage that asset for you? Because if you leave them alone, sorry to say, they steal the whole thing down. But is that opportunity? The answer is a big yes.
Okay, then another thing that's been running through my mind is, I read an article about how our ginger production was wiped out to zero due to GMOs degrading our soil. We all know, and based on the fact that I understand how Western countries basically look at such things as GMOs are basically a subscription. They are DSTV for food. That's what it is. You're paying a subscription to a foreign company to give you seeds to plant so that you can eat.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do in terms of our local seeds? I'm very, very big on Nigerians and Africans altogether eating our food is healthier.
Yeah, by a mile.
Yes. Is there anything, or are there any projects, or are there any write-ups that someone can look at about how we can basically get local seeds, store them, and be able to use our local seeds to compete with these GMOs? Because we are already in a bad situation.
Yeah, Mike, that's another opportunity right there on the value chain for you to look at, in terms of to say, okay, we have a seed. I know we have one seed, Northern Nigerian seeds company is in the north, where we make seeds for, I believe it's for maize and for corn and all that. But what's the funding? Seeds are big business. The guys in Giamanto, what's their name? The guy that do the seeds. Consultations, they make a lot of money from seeds. And if you are buying those seeds now, they've mixed GMO in. So when you buy them, you're getting GMO. But if you had a local guy in Nigeria that was doing organic seeds, just growing the seeds, ginger doesn't use seeds, right? Well, that's what I learned. It uses just the results. They get the small buds and they plant them. And I think what happened with ginger is the disease that came and has wiped away the ginger plant, got the disease. Again, no pesticides. We're not using pesticides. We don't have proper management of the seed value chain. So just like how there's something like tomatoes do not get wiped out with one disease. We're not really managing our local ecosystem that well. There's a moth that comes from the north, from Niger Republic. It just kills the tomatoes, it lays the eggs, it kills it. What's the way out? Greenhouses, where you just have the taps over the tomatoes, and you can grow the tomatoes not in the out day sun. But we're not doing all those things. Nigeria's agriculture is whole cutlass and rainfall. It's not IT, it's not tech. So these are all the value chains you're talking about. We don't have them, but if you come do them, boom, you are in the money, because seeds are, and like fertilizer, very, very important, sir.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Let me get my good friend Enna. Enna, sir, how are you doing?
Proverbs 13:20. He that moves with the wise will become wise, but a companion of fools will be destroyed. Amen. So some discussion. I'll just go straight and say it's clearly a leadership issue. And Nigeria behaves like the ostrich, even in this, just like we're discussing, that we just put our head under the sand, forget that the body is showing. When you go to the stock market, when you go short or long, the money you're expecting to make is against the fulcrum of the others who have gone in the opposite direction of how you've gone. So we don't live in isolation. The world has gained what you call a global equilibrium, where everyone must position themselves strategically to leverage on the opportunities they have and go into a negotiation with the opportunity to win. And I believe strongly that wealth is your negotiating power. So I'd say the key issue here, centered across everything we're discussing, is one of leadership. Why? We go into negotiations very weak. And when we sign those debt deals, you're coming from a weak standpoint. And what gives you leverage to take a decision like do not stand firm is based on the strength of what you have. So the geopolitics. What do I mean? Because we're a member of OPEC, for example, where we use OPEC like oil and gas, to put chokeholds on the other countries. It's also in the best interest of the West to leverage either with their debt for steel. They gave us £746 million. Whatever time they can gain leverage over us, they would. Because what we call brain drain is actually brain gain for the West. What we call a bad debt, or is Nigeria having a debt issue, is actually maybe leverage buyback for the West. So what am I saying? We owe $108 billion, for example, which gives us a weak negotiating power on the table. But that is a leverage for the West. That is a leverage to ensure that we don't compete in some areas. You talked of the budget. The same budget, if you go look at it, you see a lot of solar panels. Those things are built from the West. So it's to the benefit of us. So we need a leader who understands the global economy, the global politics, able to put us in a strong place. Then we'll not even be discussing that. Then to the issue we're talking of, the steel, low-grade steel, both of you were correct, because low-grade steel can be improved, the quality to high-grade, just like you remove sulfur from high-sulfur crude, which the beautification you talked about. And it's not entirely wrong to cite different parts of a plant or a supply chain in different locations. The 787, the Dreamliner, was built with 50 partners across 10 countries. There's an economic benefit to that, to actually spread out the manufacturing. And it doesn't matter if it was low grade or even if there was no iron ore. We can site any plant anywhere. It's just to put in efficiency. So I would say for starters, the key issue here is leadership, because you cannot solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. And that is leadership to give us a strong negotiating power, either when we're borrowing, like the steel issue you spoke about, that the whole steel will be imported, which is you really did not borrow. So it doesn't matter if we borrow or do not borrow. The leadership at that point will determine the direction of where we're going, will determine the strategic advantage we're trying to position Nigeria for. And the big question I would ask in the room today is, we know India for IT talent. The president of World Bank, Ayan Bangai, amongst MasterCard and others, they are all of Indian descent. We know the US for technological prowess, Apple, General Dynamics, military technologies. We know China for low manufacturing, good work ethos, among others. The big question is, as a country, what is Nigeria's distinctive economic advantage? I can't answer that. And I think unless we answer that and we'll put that as a fulcrum to aid our negotiations, and we'll begin to project ourselves with the proper leadership that understands not just the micro dynamics, because the macro dynamics predicates that the man who has borrowed you £746 million for your port project, the man who has a debt stock in your $100 billion, is a likely partner is actually a Nigerian. And he has a role to play on who becomes president, who sits on the seat. And he would never put someone there that will come to negotiate with them on the same standard. So I think we should really think strategically, leadership, and ensure that we have someone who's smart enough to understand the economic undercurrents, the global geopolitics, and position Nigeria with love to ensure that we position our country. But the big question I put again, what is Nigerians' economic advantage? And what is our economy known for? Until we answer that, we'll just be dancing in circles. Thank you.
Yeah, great submission again, Mr. Ena. It was fantastic again. Just want to go back to Ajaokuta. I mean, if you read Ajaokuta, you wouldn't believe what you're reading. You would read it and you wouldn't believe what you're reading. I can give you many examples. Ajaokuta was importing steel before the furnace was ready. Why? Because the government banned some had an import policy so the Ukrainian guys had to import the steel to show that they were a steel producing company to be able to get forex from the CBN. So Ajaokuta was importing steel that it was supposed to make. They would import it into the country, and then they were making billets from the steel. The whole thing was a mess. We were going to import the limestone, the ore, but it was integrated. So that's why Ajaokuta was the only company Nigeria built that had a furnace. The other steel companies were all built with direct reduction iron or direct reduction method, and they were all built by non-Russian companies. All of them, Delta, Katsina, Oshogbo, all built by non-Russian, because it's a big hole. They really dealt with Nigeria strategically. The iron ore was not ready, like you've said. I would have said, okay, where is the problem? Is the movement You can't move those things by road. They are too heavy. So if you're going to site it in a place where you're going to use those raw materials, put it there. But where they put it, they had no raw materials. They had to go to a takbe. So why not put the Ajankota in a takbe? I don't know, but that's a different one. You've asked a question, what are we known for? I think in the 1960s, when Nigeria was known for cocoa, we were known for palm oil. We were number one in palm oil, number 1 or 2 in palm oil, or number 1 and 2 in cocoa. Today, those are gone. Those are gone. Even crude oil that we now became known for in Africa is Angola is snipping at our heels. Libya is snipping at our heels. If you go back to today now, I think we are getting known for IT. We're bringing out unicorns are in Africa. About, if you look at 10 of them, 3 or 4 are from Nigeria. FinTech, IT, good quality, young English-speaking people. A good leader should be able to take these little factors here and there and build and tie them with a rope and position Nigeria as how India positioned Tata and Infosys just before the Y2K. A region of high quality, low cost labor. They've done the fintechs, they've done IT. If you come in and you're able to invest in Nigeria in a tax-free zone that has power, that has security, it's a way for you to bypass the high cost China, Taiwan, and come to Nigeria. If I was president, all the coastal states, I would declare them tax-free, all of them. For no federal tax, I'll talk to the state government, see if we can make them zero taxes for foreign investment. So if you come and set up a factory in the coastal states, you pay absolutely zero federal, state, local taxes. Whatever you bring in, you can repatriate. Let the companies come there, set up industries there, hire Nigerians, then train your educational institutions to then produce graduates that can go work there, learn the technology, go back to the hinterland, and then build the Nigerian variant. This is exactly what China did, which means we have to focus on education, we have to focus on infrastructure, and we have to change laws. China was a communist nation that allowed capitalist companies on its coastline. Why? It wanted investment. So why are we not doing it? Copy from those that have where they have worked, copy, localize, implement. That's how I would do it if I had any power in Nigeria. But hey, what do I know? Let's get Julian. Julian Olawole. Julian, hi, you were here last week, but you couldn't speak. Sorry, I couldn't hear you speak. I think we had audio issues last week.
Yeah, that's true. Hi, Kalu. It's been a while. How you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so it's glad to be on the space again. Well, I've heard many things tonight, and one of the challenges I have with a lot of Nigerians that speak, I'm not including you, is this: we are very skilled at diagnosing problems, but giving real solutions that really could change the game are some things we've had challenges. We've always had challenges. We are good at analyzing. We're the best critics on Twitter. We're the best everywhere. But what I want to just say, what I want to talk about is, I want to ask a question, but before I make that question, I'll say this. One of the issues of government in Nigeria is the civil service. No matter what happens, if the government decides today to drop salaries or to lay off some people of the civil service, to drop, the cost of this requiring to expenditure and all that, what's going to happen the next day. NLC will call total strike, and Nigeria will be shut down for the next 1 month until the government bends. Mm-hmm. So when you have that happen, the government, sometimes you wonder, okay, who started the problem first? Well, okay, who came first? Was it the hen or the egg? Because, if the government tries, NLC will say no. Then secondly, when we talk about federal character, one of the reasons why you made a statement about us situating industries where they have the best advantage. I agree totally. But the issue is this: any person that wants to enter into government has to dance the tune of those who helped him to get there. And, they will say, if you situate it here, the guys in this place might get stronger than what we can manage. So please, let's make sure we favor the party and people that support us to come inside. So it's never going to be a fair fight because politics always comes to play. It will never be a fair fight. So the question to us, it's just a rhetorical question, is that those of us that know better, let's get off Twitter, join the political parties. That's just the way. If you know you can do something, join the political. I'm not saying join APC, ND, join anyone. Understand the system from within, and then you can get a crowd of people that think like you. And in the future, you can do something that will hit the country well. So that's my submission. Now back to my question. I had some years ago. I had some CEOs doing an interview in the US, and they were talking about the American debt, which of course makes Nigeria look like as if we are players. We are just singing, and they made a statement that if the government of the US comes to the private sector in the US, they can clear off the American debt, and they all agreed. So that got me thinking: is it possible that Nigeria could, instead of focusing on external, the World Bank and Co, is there a way we could focus on the major players in the Nigerian industrial scene, the corporate guys, and see where we could get the money in-house instead of having to go to these people all the time? Indy Okereke, the GG, made a statement once, and I thought about it. Said that if the government can put all of our things on the stock exchange, our projects, and make it such that it can be seen publicly by everyone, they will raise enough money to fund all one or two. So I'm putting this question to you, Kalu. What do you think about that? Is this something that I think is viable in this country? Thank you once again, Kalu.
Is it dollar or naira? This fundraising, dollar or naira?
Okay, well, is it possible let's look at both scenarios. Is it possible in dollar or in naira?
Yeah, you can do both. You can do both. Nigeria has issued a dollar bond in Nigeria. That's a bond. Nigeria has issued a dollar bond. The federal government issued a dollar bond, meaning you buy it in Nigeria with dollars. The federal government will pay you dollars. Yeah.
Okay, but can we use that I'm talking about eliminate our debt so that we just focus on Nigerian companies alone? Do you think our companies are enough to handle that?
Yeah, but look at it this way. Once you introduce dollar into any investment, that means you are now competing with the US dollar and the US companies. True. Okay, so look at it this way. If I want to invest and I have $1 million and I just got that money from inheritance, I don't want any story. I want to the rest of my life, I'm going to spend whatever I earn from that money for the rest of my life. Would I put that money in Nigeria or the US? The answer is going to be the US. Even if Nigeria pays me 100%, I wouldn't put it, because remember, I want to use this money for the rest of my life, so I can't afford to lose it. That's why rule of law is very, very important. Why do folks why is the US 10-year bond the safest investment on earth? Because America has rule of law. No matter who the president is, they can't just go to your account and lock it up. You can sue them and you can win. Many guys have had their accounts locked up. They sue, they win with damages. In Nigeria, a governor can be removed and a military guy appointed, and then the governor brought back. Look at the primaries that are going on. A sitting governor doesn't get to sit there. So these things might look like Nigerians look at them and we laugh and we joke and we tweet, but the bond market will punish you later on for this. When Nigeria wants to borrow money, we are borrowing at a rate higher than Togo, Benin, Rwanda. There's a reason why we're borrowing higher than them. We have a larger economy, but our costs are higher because the market looks at Nigeria as too risky. It's a country whereby there are bandits in the country. When you kidnap, usually, if maybe there's a kidnap in America, they are hiding. So the FBI is looking for them. In Arizona, there's a lot of kidnapping, but they are hiding. So they are looking for them. Then they'll go to one place. There'll be a bust. They'll find people. They are hiding. They kidnapped Guthrie's mother-in-law. They've not found out till today. It's not been found till today. The difference with Arizona and Nigeria is that the guys that kidnap in Nigeria will show their face openly on TV, on Instagram, openly. They will show their face. They will say, deliver the money. I've seen it where the guys go on motorcycle with police to deliver ransom to some guys under a tree in a place. So when you have a society or a country where the government cannot guarantee its borders, what I mean is borders, they will kidnap people inside the country, hold them inside the country, collect ransom inside the country, do large-scale displacement of people from states. You see people, you see videos of students running away from a certain state or from a certain region, and the government seems incapable of stopping it. How can that same government go and say they want to issue a bond? They do it, and people invest, but it's risky. That's why we're paying 7-8% for a nation like us. So that's the answer to you. We can, but will investors buy? That's just it. And even when if you say we can, there's no way you're going to borrow cheaper. Because of your high risk, you're going to borrow very expensive. So the World Bank is giving you a cheaper loan than you get from Nigerians. World Bank is 2-3%. Bilateral trade, China is going to give you 2-3% with 10 years moratorium. Euro bonds, even the Wall Street guys, the Golden Geckos are giving you loan below 10%. Below 10%. What will you have to pay in Nigeria to invest in Nigeria, apart from patriotism? If you say, Kalu, you have $1 million, take it out of America, bring to Nigeria and invest in Nigeria, what do you have to pay me? I'm getting 3%, 4% in America. So you have to pay me anywhere from, say, 7-8% already. So where's the savings? Unless there are many ways you can do this, right? You can do what's called impact bonds. An impact bond is to say, you say, Kalu, instead of you sending money to your village to build a road, I'm going to do an impact bond. The federal government will take that money from you and build that road, and you would only pay when the road is built. So if you Google impact bonds, they are very, very useful. They're like what they call project bonds. So you can say, if you want to build a school in your village, you give the money, but the money is only released when the school is built. So that way, you don't get money from it. It's 1% interest. It's like a social welfare bond, kind of. But you are targeting project. That's how you want to do it. That's what China did. That's what Vietnam did. That's what Korea did. It's not commercial. We want to invest in our nation. We want to invest in a rate that is lower, and then we're able to then build the nation. But if you do commercial, you have to trust people. Remittances, Nigeria gets about 40 billion a year remittances, right? 35, 40 billion a year. That money is social money. So what if you simply say, okay, if you do remittances, just send $1 extra. It's going to go through an infrastructure fund, and that infrastructure fund goes to the local government, and the local government will issue an impact bond, and you would have a company that would make sure. So look at what will happen. If you go to, say, Abia State, you say, okay, if you are a carpenter or you are a plumber or you are a bricklayer, register. When I send money through impact bond, I will give it to those registered carpenters. I'll say, okay, go to a local bank and go and borrow money and build the road or whatever that the man has asked you to build. Once you build it, call me. When they build that road, they call me. I take a picture, I send back to you. You say, the road is built, release the money. I release the money to them. So there's a checks and balances. Why will the bank let them money? Because the bank is saying, we're giving you a project loan that you're going to pay back because the American guy is going to pay you. They would have to do the road to get the money. They have to call a third-party guy to verify the road has been built. But the money is already in the account, in the bank that's going to pay them. So it's not a new thing. Impact bonds, if you do something like that, you get infrastructure built in your local governments, in your states, without waiting for debt or bonds or loans. But it comes back to personnel is, what they call policy is personnel. Can you trust the local government guys in your village? Can you trust them? So in the end, we suffer. When you elect all these guys, when you say going to politics, we suffer the effect of allowing governance only to be run by politicians, right? If you look, if you allow these guys that just flood the zone and do nonsense, they're just going to spend your money and nothing's going to get done. In America, I went to a party. I don't call the guy's name. I don't know. I saw a guy here in America. His father is in Nigeria. He's a big boy in Nigeria. The guy was just giving money out. So the American guy was asking me, it's like a Nigerian prince. I said, no, it's as far as a thief. So how is he a thief? Okay, so why isn't the FBI arresting him? No, they were like looking at him like, okay, why are you calling him a thief? If he's a thief, why are you not arresting him? And I couldn't say anything because she's right. If he's a thief, why are you not arresting him? Why is he over here in America spending money, Nigerian money all over? And there are so many of them in America. Was it Kenya? No, what country was it? Cameroon. In Cameroon, they formed this association in Cameroon. If you are a government minister and you move to Europe, you go to Europe, you stay in a hotel, they will flood that hotel line with calls. They will go outside the hotel and camp. If you go to shop, they will go to the place and follow you. They made it impossible for these guys to enjoy their money when they come abroad. We should start doing that too. If someone steals money, somebody will steal money, and they say if you go and rob with a gun in Nigeria, that's armed robbery. They shoot you, they kill you. But someone takes the money for water, buys his wife a G-Wagon, then kids die of cholera. Isn't that murder?
It's worse. It's worse, Kalu.
I hear you.
We have to stand up. Thanks so much, Kalu.
You're welcome, man.
I heard you.
All right, you're welcome. Let's get Isaac. Isaac, go ahead, man. Isaac, thanks for waiting. Appreciate you.
Yeah, hi, Kalu.
How you doing, sir?
I'm fine. So I just wanted to thank you for all the insights you shared here. But there's one thing I wanted to ask. So at a very macro level, GDP and everything, we are here having this conversation, and because we kind of understand the implication of some of these things, it's easier to, flow and also get all the implication of what's happening. And as I even hear you analyze some of these things, there's a level of anger that is being stirred up in me. But at the very micro level, which something you call like stomach infrastructure, I think an average Nigerian is at that level.
Yeah.
And what would be your advice? So how do you think some of these messages can be distilled to them to really understand what is happening? Okay. Because I feel like an average Nigerian just feel this level of helplessness, not by choice, but because they don't just even understand what is happening. So how would you approach that, or what are some of the advices you have for?
Do you know how you can solve corruption and mismanagement in Nigeria? You know how you can solve it in one full grasp. If it was possible to carry everybody from Nigeria, just carry everyone from Nigeria for one day to any Western capital, just for one day, then take them back to Nigeria. Once you do that, it will stop. It will stop. There is this myth, it might be true, that militancy in Nigeria started. I don't know how old you are, but there was a guy called Nnamdi Kanu or something Kanu. When Abacha went to run for office, you know how Abacha is, when he run for office, there was this guy that went and was doing youths earnestly asked for Abacha. It's like what they're doing today with City Boys. Before City Boys, there was Ye. Ye was youths earnestly asked for Abacha. What he would do, he would take people from this state to go to Abuja and march. They said when he took the guys from Niger Delta to Abuja, the guys saw Abuja and said, "What? So country be fine like this?" That's how they started men. They said, no, you must increase our money. If Abuja can be this fine, you must increase our money. That's how it started. Nigerians, again, I apologize. I don't want to speak broadly, but you cannot wish for what you have not seen. Do you know that when I grew up in Nigeria, at least I saw power. I saw NEPA working before it went down. I saw a bit of NEPA working. The school I went to for 5 years, they took light once. That was in Jos. They took light once, and they told all of us. It wasn't NEPA. It was something else. They took light once. Guys in Jos will know it. It was schools in Bukuru. They were in NEPA. Took light once. So I saw a bit of NEPA. But a kid today, think about this, a kid that was born from, say, 2000, thinks it is impossible to have 24 hours power supply. That's what a kid that was born thinks. A kid that was born in 20s thinks that the only way he can go to university is by getting a loan from the government or from a rich relative. That's what a kid thinks. A kid that was also born to thinks that insecurity is something you live by. Just pray, go out, don't try to get kidnapped, be very, very smart about you and all that. And if police stop you, you can bribe them, or don't wear dreadlocks. That's what they all believe. It's what they all believe. That jam is, if you dry jam with candles, it's nothing wrong now. It's at least you can see there's candle. That if a road is built, you should thank the governor or thank the government chairman. This is what people believe. So when you have people with this belief and you give them 50,000 naira, don't you see them thanking the politician? I want to see those videos on Twitter where they will line them up and give them cash And the guys will thank the opposition. Thank you, sir, for giving me cash. The cash is their money. But they don't understand. There is no relation in Nigeria between tax increase and the money in their wallet, between inflation and well-being, between elections and GDP. There is no correlation. Nigerians don't relate that if you elect this person and he does this policy, I will have food on my table. They don't link it up. Why? I don't want to get into that. So when we do why I do things like this is to take this information that I know, try to break it down and show Nigeria this is what's going on. So at least when you are talking to someone, you can say, hang on, this is this, this is this. Where you can't get angry. You can't just say, I hate the president. I hate the governor. I hate Nigeria. Why do you hate it? They are borrowing too much. What are they borrowing? You don't have any data. You don't have any. That's why I do what I do. So you can have information to say, this is what we should change. If you just say, no, I'm angry, you're not going to get anything done. The way to your question specifically, if you show people what is stomach infrastructure, when did we first hear in Nigeria stomach infrastructure? Mr. Fayose, Ayodele Fayose in Ekiti, what was he doing? I saw him go to carpenters and he gave carpenters in Ekiti State the contract to build tables and chairs. Carpenters, so he called all the carpenters in Ekiti State and he gave them a multi-million-dollar contract to build tables and chairs. Instantly, he gave them all jobs. He gave them cash money because they were building the chairs from wood in Ekiti State. They got a salary. The schools got chairs. That normal contract would have been given to a contractor who would then go to China and import those tables and chairs. But Fayose did it, gave the carpenters stomach infrastructure. That's why they could not beat him in an election. He will enter Okada. Listen, it's not that he could have been a bad guy, but people just want to say this guy is aligned with us. He opened his swimming pool in government house to the youth to come and swim. That was the guy that started stomach infrastructure. And it was supposed to be that you take infrastructure that agree to the people, the very, very basic level to the people. Full school feeding, he did it. But now we've turned stomach infrastructure to rice and whatever. That's the problem. America, they do stomach infrastructure in America. They do it here. They have, if you go to, they will give you free food. They give you free houses. They give you free bus ride. Every child in America goes free buses to school. Every child gets a school meal in school. Every single child. That's stomach infrastructure. Why do they feed their children in Nigeria, in America, and not in Nigeria? Because the level of the demand from the lowest of the low in America is higher than Nigerian guys. We don't demand, so the politicians don't give it to us. If you today tell the politicians, if you want to vote for you, buy me an Okada, they'll buy you an Okada. But if you demand for 50K, they'll give 50K. I don't know if I'm making sense to you, sir. It's what our level of pride. If you give someone dirty water and that's all he has to drink, he will drink the dirty water. But if you give someone dirty water and clean water, he will always pick the clean water every day of the week. You have to give the contrast. People are not fools, but people are just too poor and too hungry, and they've lost hope. So many folks that are quote unquote supposed to be educated are supporting nonsense in Nigeria. Go to Twitter and just post something. You see, they put a response, you are educated people, not illiterates, that would defend this nonsense are educated people. Like I said in America, doing nonsense here. I was in England. I don't want to name names. The pool told that a governor was in that school and he shared he was given £100 to all the students. His daughter goes to the school. Not now, wasn't now, was maybe 2 or 3 regimes ago. Was giving £100 to his kids in the UK school. But in Nigeria, it doesn't do anything. It's just mess. Isaac, yeah. Sorry if I ranted there, but it's just.
Oh, I mean, thanks. That was really good. I mean, it made a lot of sense because I'm just thinking about it like you use America. Once groceries prices goes up, the government start panicking. They start looking for things to do to make sure that people are not complaining too much. And that accountability is
look at Trump. Why is Trump ending the war? Why is Trump ending the war? Because there's going to be summer. Summer is coming.
Yeah.
People are going to buy gas, and gas is gas is now $5. You fill your tank with $100 effing dollars, 100. So he knows that even if he's Trump, he can't go into summer season with buying gas. So he changes. In Nigeria, they increase the price of PMS. I support removal of fuel subsidy because it's a waste. But you can't increase fuel price, increase the cost of Nigerians by 3 times, and there's no palliative. The palliative was rice. How can you increase cost of PMS and give people rice as palliative? And people took the rice. People took the rice. PTF was a palliative. Petroleum Trust Fund was a palliative. So why are Nigerians not demanding Petroleum Trust Fund? Why are they demanding bags of rice? So don't blame. So you see, sometimes we blame politicians. Don't blame politicians. Don't blame politicians. It is Nigerians that are demanding nonsense and getting nonsense. If you go Delta State, half the road is covered with keke marua. Half the road. Why? That's what the people say they want. They want keke marua. They don't want. I don't want to be broad, but see the point I'm making. You go to some place, they give them fish, or they give them polished to do polishing shoe kit. If you demand nonsense, politicians go to NIPS in Kuru. They are trained to be politicians. They network. They learn from experience. They pass down knowledge. That's what politicians do. But the quote-unquote citizens on Twitter just go on Twitter and talk. They are not trained. They don't organize themselves. They are not funded. They don't bring in you can go to America. There are so many of these PACs that do political whatever. You can go and say, hey, can you come and train us on how we can organize ourselves for the election? America, they have all these PACs that run elections for people, that do messaging, that do data management, that do how to reach into a state. Has anyone done it in Nigeria? There's a strategy. Who did the APC call? They called Axelrod. But you want to go on Twitter and Rick. You don't want to call your own Axelrod. That's how they want. They called Axelrod to teach them messaging. And the man taught them. Didn't you see Buhari wearing a suit? You think just like to wear a suit? Buhari wore. You're laughing, but it's true, bro. If you want to, it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. If you want to go into someone's house, you first of all bind the strong man.
Yeah.
So the Bible is saying that the man is strong. Forget the binding. The Bible is saying the man you are going to his house is strong. That's what the Bible. The man is strong. So when poverty is strong, a bag of rice, if I come to Nigeria today and I go to my village and I start to give them a bag of rice every month, give them money every month, they will kill for me. And that's the problem in Nigeria. To do it in America, come to America and try it.
I just want to piggyback off what you were just saying. Sorry to interrupt you. When I came to Nigeria for the first time, Nigeria was very good. It was so good that nobody who came to Nigeria then wanted to go back to anywhere.
What year was this?
That was 84.
Wow, that's
yeah, that was 84. Right?
84 was Andrew now. Andrew, no checkout.
I'm checking out. No, but Nigeria was still very good compared to now. Nigeria was heaven compared to now.
Oh, gosh,
Nigeria was still very, very
bro,
good.
Let me tell you a story. Sorry, let me give you a story. I was on a plane with a lady from Lebanon. Classic Lebanon. I went to land. So we're talking, and then she was telling me she lived in Nigeria for about nearly 23 years in Nigeria. So I was talking, how did you get to Nigeria? She said they were in Lebanon. There was a civil war. No, Lebanon was created by France. So when there was a civil war, the Christians were leaving Lebanon to go to France. So back then, they would go from Lebanon, then they would go to Kano and catch a flight. So it's Lebanon to Kano. Then in Kano, you catch a flight from Kano to France. That's how developed Nigeria was. So her father and her uncle had gone. I think her uncle had gone. Then the uncle came back and said he didn't go to France again. What happened? He went to Nigeria. There's this country in Africa. They have street lights. Their currency is strong. Everywhere is clean. It's organized. They didn't believe it. because they had never seen an African before. It was in the 70s. You know, that there was not an African. So like, what do you mean Africa? Their videos of Africa were like, Kunta Kinte. That's what I thought Africa was. So they flew into Nigeria, not even Lagos, so to Kano. They never left. So many of these Lebanese guys you see in Nigeria, that's how they came to Nigeria. During that exodus from Lebanon, instead of going to France, they stayed in Nigeria, they stayed in Lagos, in Kano, Kaduna, so many of them. That's how good Nigeria was. She was giving me the price of sardine was this, that when people in France now stay hearing about Nigeria, the people were leaving France, the Lebanese were leaving France to come back to Nigeria. You're right. I'm just giving you. I'm just backing you up. You're right.
You're even making my point. So during that period, I went to so in the parts of Nigeria where you consider as a slum, that's supposed to be a slum, right? So after these Sunday services, right, your families go to visit other families in church. Those people were living good.
In the slum.
And then in the so-called slums then. And then another thing was that I met someone who told me, that's a student in my university, who now told me that, look, you guys think you're not enjoying anything. That in those days, that a little before I came, that when in most federal universities, that when and even state universities, that when you pay your school fees, first of all, the school fees are low, and secondly, you don't buy food. They give you tickets for 3 square meals a day, that each student has so many tickets, and the kind of food they eat is like the kind of food that they serve in Chicken Republic.
Isaac, when that's in Nigeria? I'm just curious.
Me, 215.
Wow. So I mean, what do you know of Ali Must Go? Ali Must Go protest was because they increased school feeding. Is it from 30 kobo to 50 kobo? I wasn't there yet, but I think that's what I heard. Ali Must Go. Ali was like the commissioner or whatever, and the students revolted that Ali must go because he increased their feeding to 50 kobo. You're right. I mean, so let's give us time to speak. But the point I'm making is this, right? Nigeria was a great country. Great country. This thing that Trump is saying, make America great, that's the next. It should be make Nigeria great again. Nigeria was a great country. And the problem with Nigeria is that everything make us great is still in Nigeria. See, I went to a state. Let me give you this. I went to Bauchi State. We're doing like a project, and we were trying to get industries that we could privatize. I come in contact with the Northern Nigerian Economic Plan. I've said this on Twitter before. If you want to read the most detailed report done to industrialize a nation, this is a northern nation, go and read the Northern Nigerian Economic Plan. They had a company called Northern Nigerian Development Company. They had a skyscraper in Abuja, in Kaduna, years before the Lagos guys had one. This was written for them by the British. It had everything, ranches, so that it's not cattle roaming around of Nigeria, ranches, cattle processing, railways. If you go to Bauchi, what is in that Bauchi? Bauchi that you see today was Bauchi and Jos together. That was one state. Ranches, the copper wires, aluminium smelters, it's all in that Bauchi state. That's an industrial powerhouse there. Have you heard anything about Bauchi in any conversation in Nigeria? If I start to list what's in Bauchi, do you know that in Bauchi, they developed a ranch and a cattle processing zone? So they would get the ranch would get cattle from all over West Africa. They will fatten them in the ranch. Then they will process them in a facility in Bauchi. Then they'll put them on trains. The train will take the meat to Lagos and to Port Harcourt, and also export it to Saudi Arabia. Did you know that? Not. I didn't say now. I said 1970s. So if the guys in Bauchi had simply revived that, they would have been exporting things to Saudi, to Lagos, and to Port Harcourt. It's still there. It's still there. So that's the annoying thing in Nigeria, that we don't, you just have to just make one or two things work. The same Bauchi, who remembers veg fruit? Veg fruit, tomato drink, veg fruit, mango. It's in Bauchi. It's dead. But the factory is still there. If you drive on Bauchi, you see mango on the road, food on the road. It's there. I'm not giving you, Google it. Veg fruit is there. What have we done about it? And you can go around, like, go to Kaduna, go to Bompai. You see factory after factory dead. Now the Lebanese have come to take it over. Go to Kano, textile companies dead. Go to Lagos, go to Matori. They've converted warehouse that were making goods to churches, mega churches in Matori. The factory is now for praising God. A former factory, Matori, Fatah Tere, is dead. Go to Port Harcourt, Transamadi, oil and gas, dead. Aba is stolen because they have small scale. That's what they can do, small scale. So if you come as a president and you say, listen, we're just going to go back, we're going to stop all this nonsense, buy private jet here, buy private jet here. Just bring your head down and work. Not all this, I want to look for investors. You are looking for investors to do what? When you have assets in Nigeria that are just lying fallow. People have billions in the banks. There's about 20 billion United States dollars in dorm accounts in Lagos. Nowhere to invest it. Nobody wants to invest. Everywhere is if you invest, you lose money. So they keep it in the bank. You have money in Nigeria. You have factors you can revive in Nigeria. Who is organizing and tying these things together? Yeah, Calabar or Budu Cattle Ranch, dead. Yankari Game Reserve, the president of Nigeria, Yar'Adua, will go to Yankari, will go to Budu Cattle Ranch, dead. The largest structure, is it a man-made structure in the world? I think it's in the world, like a wall. It's somewhere in Lagos, Ogun State. Have you ever heard about it? It's there. Benin Moat is there. They are fighting over the museum. So Nigeria is a very, it drains you. And ignorance is bliss. Because I know these things, I get sad sometimes. If you don't know it, you're okay. Don't try to know it if you can't take it. But it's sad what Nigeria can do and it's not doing. Sad. You have
Saudi Arabia
used to come in. The same UCH that King of Saudi Arabia to come. They don't have water and light. UCH. So it's the country is just, you just need, we need our own Trump. You need someone that will come and say, listen, make Nigeria great again and focus on Nigeria first, Nigeria citizens first. We want to make, and it was possible. The richest Nigeria's have ever been was 2014. That's the richest Nigeria's ever been in the history of Nigeria, 2014. Some people were coming back home to Nigeria. That's when we had ministers. The ministers were working abroad. They would leave their job abroad in IMF and in World Bank and the former Minister of Foreign Affairs and come to Nigeria to work in Nigeria. Not the other way around now. People now work in Nigeria, then go abroad. So 2014, what was your naira? What was your exchange rate? What was your level of exports? What was happening in Nigeria? Nigeria was in the JP Morgan Emerging Bond Index. It was in the Barclays Emerging Bond Index. Dollar full everywhere. I remember Soludo, when he was the CBN governor, threatening that if you are holding dollar, he was going to destroy you. When I mean destroy, the naira was getting so much value. I was saying if you are holding dollar, and people were shaking because we had about 60 billion in foreign reserves. We are doing about $2 million in crude oil exports. Inflation was single digit and stable. So why would you go abroad? Why would you jackpot to where? Where you go jackpot to? So again, I don't want to take too much time. I don't want to keep you. Cheap is here. But it's not impossible to fix Nigeria. The most educated president we've had, when I mean educated, I mean in world affairs, investments, that knows what's up, is Tinubu. He knows what's up. What has he done with it? What's he done with it? I don't want to attack any politician, but what has he done with it? Every day I'm going to look for investors. What has come in? I brought in 20 trillion. His own federal government publishes FDIs that come to Nigeria. It's not $20 billion. They publish it. It's not 20 billion. But every day I've got to, you go on Twitter, we are bringing in billions, but you, on your own published report, shows the money is not coming in. We have to reduce, as they say in local English, keep your head down, reduce our head, bring it down. I agree that we have a problem and fix it. All this gallivanting around, doing politics there, primary, you win terminal primary, is not helping anybody at all. It's not. Let's get Chief. After Chief, we'll sort of wind down the space and cut it there. Thank you guys for listening. Chief, go ahead, Chief.
Oh, thanks a lot, Mr. Kalu. This topic, is very, very interesting. So when I saw the space, I said, let me try. And I got lucky. Yeah, I mean, you're right. So the answer to this is the debt sustainable? Yes and no. The no part for me is the fact that while the ratios look, comparable, I mean, okay, when you look at the other countries that are also borrowing and doing well. But the question is, what are we using this borrowing for? What are they being used for? Are they being used in a productive manner to ensure that at the end of the day, either we're growing our industrial capacity or we're growing our production of oil and gas, or we're solving insecurity problem in such a way that as against all these fuck monies that are coming in and going back, we can now have proper FDIs that would ensure that the economy grow in a sustainable manner. The truth of the matter and the frustrating thing is that Nigeria has huge potential. I mean, we're talking about 800 kilometers of coastal line, 37 billion barrels of proven oil reserve, 215 trillion cubic feet of gas. That is not to talk about all the other minerals that we have. We have gold in the north. We have arable farmland, that can feed perhaps maybe the whole of West Africa. There's just so much potential. But like I've alluded to, we lack leadership. All we're doing is framing. All we're doing is making all this misrule, and I don't know. You said somebody is the most educated. That's debatable.
No, when I mean educated, I mean like connections globally. He was the governor of Lagos, which was the economic capital of Nigeria, for 8 years. Right before him was Obasanjo, who was an international guy, i.e., he was like a NGO guy, international guy, military guy. After him was Yar'Adua. Unfortunately, he passed away. Goodluck was from a small state, became president. He had no contact when he became president. Tinubu was governor of Lagos, the commercial capital, not just of Nigeria, of West Africa. So he had the connections. He knows what's up. He's a businessman. So you would have expected he would have come like a Trump and say, okay, let us do business. Let's do private sector. Let's make the economy productive. Let's take this debt and then invest in infrastructure. There's a slide I haven't showed you here. The debt is going not to CapEx, it's going to other things. This is from the federal government's own numbers. So that's the point I'm making. He knows what's up. He knows what to do. I don't know if he's constrained by his first term or if this is him. I don't know, but I'm quoting numbers. I'm not attacking the man. His first term has been disappointing. In terms of his reforms, I support him removing fuel subsidy. I support floating the dollar. I've never attacked it. Go on my Twitter feed, is there. Never attacked the guy on this. But when you have so much power, what have you done with it? He always boasts, I have 31 out of 36 state governors. But you took monies from fuel subsidy and shared out. And these governors are just spending at will. One bought a golf cart. Where is the investment in health, education? We have states in Nigeria, people are fleeing local government from bandits, fleeing en masse. Food is expensive. Power supply. Mr. Tinubu said, if you vote me in, if I don't give you power, don't vote me in. So where are we? That's the point. These are the real things. So I don't want to get political, but he's got to take a grip, grab this thing and get busy. All this praise that they are praising him up and down the whole place, they've praised people before. So, I don't know, man.
Let me just wrap up. It's unfortunate. So the people who are throwing monies at us, borrowing, they will keep giving us money because they can see the potential. And they will know that at some point we will get the leadership right. And once we get the leadership right, those potentials will start to become real assets and will start to create value. But now, I don't want to go political. We all know the reasons why we have some of these misplaced priorities. When you look at the most expensive project
that is currently being run by the government. There's a clear case of conflict of interest. So what are we talking about? Anyway, it's okay. We'll all be fine.
We'll be well.
Thank you, Mr. Kalu.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, we will. I think it's been a fantastic session. We'll spend, give or take, I would say about 2 hours, 2 hours, just talking about around Nigeria and the issues around debt. The whole space is basically tagged, is it debt sustainable? I would say it's not, because there are some external things that are going to come into play that might affect Nigeria, especially the peace in Iran. If that happens and that holds, that reduces our ability to earn higher price crude oil earnings. That's going to be a major issue for Nigeria. We haven't grown or taken advantage of the revenues from Iran, the Hormuz closure. Now it's sort of going to go away. So we're going to go back to the $60, $70 barrel price of crude oil. But the most troubling thing is the productivity inside Nigeria. We still have no guaranteed power supply 24/7, even 12 hours guaranteed. We don't have that. We have no safety of lives and property, and inflation has ticked up because of Hormuz. Hopefully it comes back down, but we still don't have assurances of supply of basic goods and services in Nigeria. These are not good things, and these will not make an economy productive. When an economy is not productive, it can borrow its way and say, use that borrowing to cover the cracks in the economy. This is what we're doing in Nigeria. We've got to get busy and try to utilize this ability to borrow in a better way. That's not what this space is all about. We've shown the numbers. The numbers back us up that we're entering into a debt trap, and our debt sensitivity ratios are very, very low at the moment. So it behooves on the government and the citizens to keep on asking questions. For the folks that went to the World Bank space and put comments there, you guys are patriots. Don't let anybody tell you anything. You guys took your time to buy data and to ask the World Bank question. And the World Bank should have answered you. They should have said, this is why we are lending to Nigeria. This is what we are seeing. Down to shut down the space. You are the taxpayer. You are going to repay the taxes, not the government. So if you ask a question, who should answer you? Don't let anyone gaslight you. You are asking real questions. What is the debt going to be used for? If you don't get the answers, you should ask more. So I commend you guys for doing that. And I just hope that the government understands that we want Nigeria to succeed. Everybody wants Nigeria to succeed, everybody. But we need to have, there has to be a carry along, and to understand that not everybody is going to praise you, but we all want the country to succeed. On that note, guys, we're going to be back here next week. We have a lot to talk about, guys, on investing, a lot. This week, we're hearing IPOs. I'm hearing Dangote IPO. I've done the numbers. Guys, let me put it this way. How do I put it this way? A speedboat can go very fast and can turn very fast. A big oil tanker can't go very fast, can't turn very fast. If you are buying Dangote, be very, very clear what you're buying. We're going to have a space on Dangote Refinery. I want to bring this on. I'm just going to have a space on Dangote Refinery IPO. But remember, if Dangote Refinery is paying dollars, that means you want to compare Dangote with, of course, SpaceX, Anthropic, OpenAI. They're all going to be out. They're all going to pay dollars. So Dangote is no longer a local player. He's not international, which means we have to compare him with what the yield is going to be. I hear people saying, whatever happens, I'll buy Dangote. That's not a good analysis. We have to look at the numbers and what we're going to buy. But next week, let's see what we're going to do. See if we can bring someone and talk. We don't have the numbers out yet, but we can still have a talk one on more and just see where we're going on that. So that's what I'm working on, apart from the other things we work around, right? All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out here. My name is Kalu Aja. I do appreciate you guys. YouTube is going to be recorded. You can go back and watch it. This is going to be recorded also on the podcast, so you can go back and watch it. If you want to buy a gift for someone for summer, get my book, Let's Talk About Your Money. It's available on Amazon. Great gift. Personal finance, investing in the economy, all in there for you to read and enjoy. Thank you so much for all the folks that have tuned in to comment. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys later on in the next week. Have a good one, and bye.